story starts in Austin, Texas, and we were there for an event, and my wife called me, and it was a fairly frantic phone call. And she said, "Look, I need you to come home." And I said, "Okay, well, what's going on?" She said, "Well, I've been taking this medicine, and I just can't stop taking it, and I need you to come home." And before that, I'd never received that phone call before. And so I got the next plane, go home, I come in the back door, and I see my wife. I said, "Honey, are you okay?" And she said, "Well, I'm okay right now, but in a few hours, it's going to get really, really difficult." And sure enough, in a few hours, I could see her hands begin to tremble, and she started saying things like, I know that the doctors don't want me taking any more of this medicine, but what if I just take one more pill to get me through the night? What if I just take one more pill?" And it was at that point that I realized, we had a problem. And so the next morning we went to a mental health facility, and we get to the waiting room, nobody else in the waiting room, just us, and waited for a while, and eventually the nurse comes and says, "Courtney, will you come on back?" And we get to the door, and we both walk together, and we get to the door, and right before we got to go through, they looked at me and they said, "Luke, you don't get to come for this. You gotta stay out there." And there was just something about not being able to journey together through that moment that made us just both feel so isolated and lonely. And she came out a little while later and she said, "Look, they're recommending intensive therapy." And so that's what we did. I'll drop her off at 9 a.m. in the morning, pick her up at 2 p.m., and we did that for a few weeks. And a little while after that, the doctors came to us and said, "Hey, you don't need to come back here anymore. You're discharged, you're free to go, you're on the right trajectory, you've shown a remarkable recovery, keep it up." And we were home one evening, and she had this bottle of pills in her hand. And she said, "Look, I need to go and flush these pills because these pills represent so much shame and so much guilt in my life. I just need to watch them leave one by one." And I was reminded of a story about an explorer who went to a foreign land, and when he arrived on the beaches of this foreign land, he said to his men, "Hey, we're going to go explore the horizon. We're going to see what's over the mountains. We're going to see what this land has for us." And after he finished explaining that to his men, he realized that none of his men wanted to follow him. They just wanted to return back to where they came from. They just wanted to return to what was familiar, to what was comfortable. They just wanted to return to the past. So this explorer waited a few days, and he called all of his men back onto the shoreline again. He said, "I want every single soldier on the beach." And once they were all accounted for there, he gave his generals the command to burn the ships. Because he said, "We will not retreat, we will not go back, we will not be stuck in the past, but we will leave ourselves no option than to see what is in our future, than to see what is over the mountain, to see what could be." And for my wife, when she took those pills and she flushed them, that was her moment of burning the past. And for some of us here tonight, you might say to me, "Man, look, if you just knew the things that I've walked through in life, you'd understand why I'm locked up. If you just knew what was said and done to me as a child, you'd understand why I'm stuck in the past. If you just knew what my father, my mother, if you just knew what my boss said to me last year, if you just knew those things, you'd understand why I'm not even sure I want a future." And here's what I would say to you. I would say, go, and burn the ships.
Cast away on a lonely shore. I can see in your eyes, dear, it's all like for a modern boy. We've got to burn the ships, cut the ties, send the flare into the night. Say a prayer, turn the tide, dry your tears and wave goodbye. stay. We can rise up from the dust and walk away. We can dance upon the heartache, yeah. So light a match, leave the past, burn the ships, and don't you look back. So let it impress you. This fear of falling again. And if you need a refuge, I will be right here until the end. Oh, it's time to burn the ships, cut the ties, send the flare into life. Say a prayer, turn the tide, dry your tears and wave goodbye. Step into my music. We can rise up from the dust and walk away. We can dance upon the heartache, yeah. So light a match, leave the past, burn the ships, and don't you look back. So long to shame, walk through the sorrow, out of the fire, into tomorrow. So for us to face the fear, feel the way.